The Endangered Species Act was designed to preserve biodiversity, not enrich trial lawyers and political activists. I've worked on a variety of campaigns and fought for a variety of conservative causes for a long time, but it wasn't until I came back from my military service that I realized I needed to devote myself to others. Anything to make a difference and to seek consensus on an issue is something that I feel strongly about. Politics is in my blood. I would love to be a public servant to this great state, and I would like to leave everything on the field, give 110% to the state, and we'll see where it takes me. I am a proud conservative. Make no mistake, you're going to see a lot of Bushes. There must be an authority at the state level to coordinate flood mitigation projects in upstream watersheds. Additionally, this state entity could bring together multiple stakeholders to benefit all communities in the region. It is difficult to conduct flood mitigation at the federal level because of the bureaucracy and inconsistent funding. Texans are better able to lead this effort at the state level rather than rely on the federal government. State ownership of flood control efforts will not completely eliminate the problem, but can substantially reduce it. Texas has a pressing need for a single governmental body to provide overall flood control management for the watersheds affecting major population areas, and guide state and local flood control policy. Our efforts to preserve and protect the Alamo are first and foremost about preserving and protecting the story of the battle itself. It has never been a good idea to try to disarm Texans. Texans will not be pushed around. Texans fear no one. Each day in Texas, law enforcement officers keep us safe from dangers we don't have to worry about. Each day in Texas, heroes risk their lives to protect ours. No man or woman of our armed forces or law enforcement will pass from this world unnoticed. They will not be forgotten. They will not just fade away. As a former public high school teacher, I will support whatever is in the best interest of Texas education only after careful evaluation of the permanent school fund. In my own professional career, I've tried to establish my own identity and my own track record so that if I were to entertain a run for office, there would be my own track record for voters to look at. I still subscribe to the theory that Ronald Reagan once pronounced, that I will never speak ill will of my fellow Republican. President Obama and Hillary Clinton want government to run your health care. My dad believes that you and your doctor should decide your health care. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama believe that the problems that exist in our country can be solved by Washington, D.C. My dad believes that the problems in the country are Washington, D.C. You can be ideological, you can be passionate about your issues, I'm all for that. And there are some issues I refuse to give in on. But for the state to function, for government to function, there has to be some level of deal-making. I'm not a legislator. I've never been a lobbyist. I've never worked a session before. but based on my conversations with leadership in the Senate and the House, I get the general sense that people want to work together to make things happen. It's said that once you win an election, that you win political capital, and that's kind of my intent, is to spend political capital on the Gulf Coast, among other areas. Renewables need to be developed in an environmentally responsible way. And, I frankly have heard criticisms from even environmentalists, saying that some wind farms impact gaming and fishing patterns, whether it's offshore or onshore. If we're going to be successful and be considered credible in the Hispanic community, we've got to denounce some of the ignorant statements that are made about Hispanics and the contributions we make, whether it's to the military, our nation's economy, or to the history of Texas. Sometimes political correctness runs amok in our public education system where we think that every kid can go to a 4-year university. I know that for most people, seeing is believing when it comes to government efficiency. The Texas Republican Party is in many respects like the National Party. We have different components that all add value in different ways, whether it's the Tea Party on fiscal questions, whether it's the so-called establishment that's focused on economic development questions, moving states like Texas forward. I received endorsements from Tea Party to moderates alike, and I think that's unique, and that's something I'm proud of. I've reached out to independents and minorities that have traditionally voted Democrat but that are conservative on a lot of questions. We talk to young people, folks that typically aren't voting on a consistent basis. I'm proud of that. It's kind of an unwritten law, I think, carrying the name George Bush. At times I ask myself, am I going to be able to live life the way I want to? I'm cautious about doing certain things. Politics, I love. It's a noble profession. I stood by Ted Cruz in 2012. I endorsed President Trump in 2016. I've been asked whether knowing Spanish and being Hispanic myself is a positive in getting Hispanic voters, and I don't believe it is. I think Hispanics look for a friend, they look for someone who understands, who's willing to relate, to hear their issues and welcome them to the party and to their campaigns. I'm a former educator, a veteran, and I have a strong energy and asset background. I am drawn to public service. I'm intrigued by being in public office. Americans in general, I think, don't understand the weight and gravity of foreign policy and how to engage the world at large. My grandfather was the architect behind NAFTA, and that has created so much economic opportunity, not only in our country, but in Latin America. Republicans have to be mindful about reaching out more to Hispanics, not only because they're the fastest growing minority, but also because we share their conservative values on marriage and life. I myself am Catholic, and many Catholics have values that are a priority for Republicans, especially as they relate to marriage and life. On social questions, national defense, economic issues, I'm a strong conservative. I'm willing to stand behind this concept that as conservatives, we can win the Hispanic vote without selling out the values. I don't think we need to compromise. If we don't register and don't vote, national leaders will not be aware of our point of view. You can be in a nonprofit organization. You can serve your fellow man in a variety of other ways. You don't necessarily have to win political office. In 2008, Barack Obama did a phenomenal job of reaching out to minority groups, to younger people, and a lot of newer voters, Hispanics being one component of that definition of newer voters. My family has always said, if you're going to get into politics, do it for the right reasons, not because you've got to carry on something. I love politics, but from the sidelines. I am constantly reminded that as Texans, we are exceptional people. It's very hard to complain about society if you don't get involved. Our state is truly remarkable because we are leading this country with sound, conservative principles. As long as we continue fighting for our ideals, we'll move forward. I've always had an interest in politics, I can't deny that. I know where my priorities stand, and it's with my wife and my kids. It's trying to be a loyal son and brother. Whether it's my sister asking for help during her challenges or my dad asking for help with his campaign, I try my best, knowing that my responsibilities are to my family.